Let's go, let's go!
Welcome to Straight Shooting with the Boys. It's week 6. It's J-Lo. It's Diaz.
Sir.
Let's get into this. So last night, man, was a super snooze fest. I rode hard with Justin Fields. Almost had the win. Looked like if he would have grabbed it at the when he first touched it, if he'd have grabbed it, that was a touchdown. But
Yeah. He bobbled it and then it went out. That was close, dude. That was probably as close as you can get on a last play.
That was like 2 years ago when we played. Was it 2 years ago? 2019 when we played the Seahawks.
Yeah. The stop on the goal line. Yeah.
Like millimeters for a touchdown, man. That was wild.
But I mean, that game should have been way out of. The game should have been put away by either one of those teams. It should have been put away a lot, way before that. I feel like they were trying to make it interesting because it was so boring. It was just that I seen a thing somewhere where it said Thursday night game should be most boring teams in the league, and then if you lose and if you lose on Thursday, you're stuck staying on Thursday night until you finally win a game.
That's funny as hell because usually you see the bad offensive team go for 30 points on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's always it seems.
The good teams aren't even able to score right now. It's like, what is going on? It's Thursday night. Have you seen the Thursday night the prime cast or whatever?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, how the line following the ball.
Yeah. They go through they break down. Amazon's pretty, I mean, they have the means to make that interesting, you know what I mean? But it's just it's unfortunate for them. They're buying the games that aren't working out to their favor. But you think about them on paper at the beginning of the year, these games sounded like they should have been good games, and then once they happened, you were like,
terrible games.
Terrible
games.
Mm-hmm.
Every week it seems like something. A snooze fest is something. We didn't even put it on. I'm gonna say it because we did not put it on the ticker. But the roughing the passer calls are getting terrible.
Yeah, it's not consistent. I've been saying that for penalties for a long time, but that particular penalty, it's very. I've noticed it's it kind of favors the type of quarterback that it is. like if it's a quarterback that's like Tom Brady that sits in the pocket, Aaron Rodgers that they sit back there and they kind of throw, versus the guys that kind of move a little bit more. I feel like those they end up favoring the guys that stand. And the guys that are typically more mobile quarterbacks, they're just like, oh yeah, those guys can get hit, not a big deal, But I've seen it. They need to at least allow a review. Let New York, whoever else is over there, ref wise, look at that and say as a group, we would call that as a this or we would call that as a that. I feel like that should have been a thing a long time ago.
I agree with that. That was actually a stat put out. I think Brady has the most games played of any quarterback or something like that right now in the last 5 or 6 years. And he has, I think, one more roughing the passer call than Aaron Rodgers. And he has less than Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. They had more roughing the passer calls against those two than they do Tom Brady, which I thought was weird because we see the Tom Brady ones, and I think it's because the Tom Brady ones happen at the end of the game.
They happen in key moments. I think is the biggest thing. I think they'll call them pretty consistent across the board until it's a game changing play, and then they favor the guy who I think typically Tom Brady or those faces. I said that about refs in the league though for a long time, and the NFL in general. They favor the guys that people want to see, or the guys that people come to watch a little bit more so than they do the guys that aren't really up there.
Yeah, I see that. This week was a microcosm of what's been going on for the last few years. That strip sack of Derek Carr was wild.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
I had
he
Raider.
stripped it and recovered it
Yeah.
before they hit the ground. What's he supposed to do?
Yeah. No, I had Raider fans calling me like that was a bad call.
I was with Nate, and he was excited, obviously, but he was like, that was roughing the passer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was a good play. That wasn't roughing the passer.
No, yeah,
How are you gonna
exactly.
call that? And,
Yeah.
he's a diehard, so
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have a dude in my work that's like not Raiders, 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 and he texted me and he was like, "Dude, we had everything working for us. We even had bad calls called in our favor, and and we still lost." And
still
I'm like,
took the L.
"Bruh,
I think that the Chiefs are a great team, but did you see the defensive coverages they were using? They had the defensive end was like out playing cornerback
yeah,
just to
yeah,
get Travis Kelsey off his route. It was like, man, they're doing anything they can, and they did pretty well, except in the
they,
red zone. He had 4 touchdowns.
yeah."
So.
I mean, it started to break down a little bit towards the end, but yeah, it definitely. I think I keep seeing all these things pop up, but they're like, like in fantasy, like you either have Travis Kelsey or you're expecting 5 to 10 points a
I saw
game with
that.
kind tight end. And I'm
Hey,
like,
my tight end gets me 10 points a week. I'm
hey,
happy with that.
realistically, that's all you can expect from a tight end. Like that you're happy about those numbers, but it's crazy with Travis Kelsey and how he affects like defenses change to that guy. Like you don't see that from a tight end. Like I've never throughout my history of watching football, I've seen tight ends affect games. Sure, like you got the Antonio Gates and the Gonzalez's and all these guys that
Vernon
were great.
Davis.
Yeah, great tight ends for sure, but they weren't defensive schemes set up to stop a tight end. Like you don't
Right.
see that. You don't see
Right.
that. So props to
Not very
Kelsey.
much.
I still think this man right here is the best tight end, but only because tight end is not just receiving; it's
Fantasy,
blocking. It's other. There's a lot of different things in there. So I would say this man is the best tight end, but best overall athlete at tight end. Like, yeah, you have to give it to Kelsey by far.
I don't know if you've seen the Kelsey brothers podcast, but when his brother asked him who's the best tight end, he was like, "You want me to say his name? Like George." So he recognizes George Kittle as the best tight end because he blocks.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
Kelsey,
it.
Kelsey, the center. He's funny, dude. I like his
They're,
podcast.
they're
I,
hilarious. Dude.
yeah,
I
he's
would be
he's
dying. Like 2 weeks ago or something, he was like, "I don't know why teams don't run the quarterback sneak more often." And last
yeah,
week they ran like 5 quarterback sneaks at the 3 yard line. And he's like, "It's no longer a sneak.
yeah,
They
right.
know it's coming."
Now it's a run. Now it's a run play.
Yeah.
There's
He's like, "I
no
had to get checked for concussions because I have 7 big ass bodies on top of me." That is hilarious. Well, we didn't. I didn't put this on what we're gonna talk about, but somebody was talking about it this week. Who's the better tight end, Vernon Davis, George Kittle?
um. I think George Kittle is probably the best. In my opinion, George Kittle is the best tight end I've ever seen play the game. But again, from the definition of what a tight end is, Vernon Davis is the best athlete at tight end that I've probably ever seen. You can't. He was as fast as a wide receiver, as big as a goddamn lineman, and could catch like a fucking receiver. So you can't really say like talent wise, like that dude could have played across the board. Similar to what Pitts, I think, what Pitts can be eventually is what Vernon Davis was then. So I mean, you can't argue that. But again, I always have to go back, especially because I played tight end for a bit. I always have to go back to like what it means to be a tight end. I had to argue with Kyle and other people about that. Like you got to be able to block. You got to be as good of a blocker as that offensive tackle, but also be athletic enough to go out there and make catches and run routes. So it's not a
So
position that you can
I think
say tight end. You can say a wide receiver at you know what I mean, or a lineman at that position, but you
yeah,
can't really say like
I agree. I think we had 2 different eras too, right? So like, I think Vernon Davis is probably a reason why George Kittle, and Travis Kelsey, one of the reasons
what.
why
Yeah,
they are so good now because when Vernon Davis was at his peak, remember he broke the touchdown record, and then the next year Gronk broke the touchdown record. So like, remember they were going back and forth, and then now we have George Kittle broke the receiving yards record,
Hmm.
and then the next year, Travis
Kelsey
Kelsey
broke it.
breaks the
Yeah,
receiving yards record. So it seems like they are both one of the greatest at in their eras.
yeah,
They
yeah.
were both
Hmm.
in. So the Niners always had a good tight end, but there was always another good tight end in the league.
Yeah.
Kind of overshadowed both of them.
You can
Like
even
even
go back to
though
like Delaney Walker. like
Delaney
we've
Walker was
all,
great too.
we've always had pretty good tight ends on that team. I mean, shit, you got the Clark catch, the iconic Clark catch. So I mean, we've always
And
had
what's
those.
the we had even when Vernon Davis was hurt, we had that tight end Aaron Johnson.
Yeah, yeah,
He led he led the league in like receptions or something
yeah,
for tight
yeah,
ends.
yeah.
So it was there's always a tight end in this team franchise.
Yeah.
But I think Vernon Davis he was able to make defenses have to adjust to him.
Yeah, yeah.
I think George Kittle for a year or two was that, but now he's not that.
Yeah, and I think it's more by necessity now. Like they don't need him to be that guy. Where back then he was really our only weapon. So I think
Yeah.
it comes down to that. That's what I think separates a Vernon Davis from him, and like a Travis Kelsey even from them is they have weapons around them, and they're still always that guy. So
Always
like
that.
yeah, for sure. I think Kittle,
I think
but again, Kittle out of necessity, he gets moved to that lineman, that wing kind of spot to add for that protection because he can do that. Like you just can't. You couldn't expect Kelsey to go back there and block 30 times a game and not get beat probably half of those times. Where Kittle,
he was not a blocker.
no, and neither was Davis. And Davis wasn't bad at blocking, but he wasn't that kind of guy. You go back to Antonio Gates, you go back to all these guys that were like considered great tight ends.
Even on our team, when Davis was there, he wasn't the blocker. It was Delaney Walker was the blocker.
Yeah, yeah, and then like you go back to Gronk. Gronk was probably the next. I would say the next one after him that had a little bit of both because he was able to block pretty. He was able to block pretty well. Just I think out of pure just talent and strength, and that dude is a monster. But yeah, but he just,
I
like
think
you
George right
watch.
now won't be the same guy he was a couple years ago
No.
because we have so many weapons. So you got
Hmm.
Debo who can go for 100. You got Ayuk who can go for 100. You got Kittle who can go for 100. Jeff Wilson, who we're about to talk about, can go for 150. We have so many weapons that it's not you can't key in on anybody anymore.
Yeah.
So
And
last
that's what we
week,
want. That's what I like. I don't need Kittle to be 100 yards every game. I need Kittle to be that potential to go 100 yards every game because then you have to cover him. You have to look at him when he's on the field, when he's running routes. That's always going to pull safeties. That's always going to pull linebackers away, which then allow our other guys to do what they need to do. He doesn't necessarily need to be a factor in the yards and the points per, all that kind of stuff to be a factor in the game. And that's why I like having him on the field because when he's on the field, you have to expect him.
yeah, you don't know what he's gonna do. He can block
No.
just like a lineman. He can catch like a receiver. So
Similar to
it
Juice.
puts that
Juice,
hesitation in that
yeah,
defense's mind.
yeah. Juice has that same like you have to consider him at those lanes. He's done enough plays
Oh yeah.
catching the ball and doing other stuff out of the backfield that you have to like. He's on the field. Is he going to block or is he going to run a goddamn route? So we have a lot of guys on.
A big play. He's good for a big play every game.
Yep.
So something that's been happening. We've another turf field. So we got a bunch of injuries. The Mosley injury hurts, man. That dude was playing so good. He's in line for a big contract.
Yeah.
So even Ward, who's in my mind the best CB in the league right now. He's like rated the best. He has the best stats. He doesn't have all the interceptions, and he has one interception, but Mosley was outplaying him.
Yeah.
Not really like pulling away, but like
there
was no difference between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't see a drop off from either of them. I some of the times if it wasn't for like their numbers and like just their body types, like I wouldn't even know who was covering. Like it's like I expected either one of them to be the same way. They're in their receiver's face, they're turning their heads, they're knocking the ball away, and I'm like, I'm good with that. That's all we need. We don't need interceptions out of our corners. We need guys that can cover on big plays. So
3 and outs is amazing.
Yeah.
And we were getting a lot of them. So now we're kind of back to where we were last year. We got a good corner on one side. Mosley was good last year. He was not great last year. This year he was great.
Yeah.
Ward is great. So we have a great corner on one side, and we don't know what's on the other side right now. We're expecting Brett back. Looks like they had to put him down to this week, so he's not going to play. He might not come back. Think about the last time he had ACL injury. He came back and got embarrassed. So he might not come back. Everybody's hoping he does. I hope he does.
Yeah.
But
everybody has that hope, but yeah, it's a possibility, man.
Not come back. So what do we do with that cornerback position? We put Ambry Thomas out there. He was out there a little bit last week, but I think he was out there last week at the end of the game. They put Womack in immediately after the injury. Womack was the outside corner. Do we put Womack on the outside corner? He's only 5'9", I think.
Yeah, so see that and we kind of briefly
right now.
Yeah, we briefly talked about it, but I mean, even at this point, shit, if we got Jimmy Ward with the fucking club on his hand, like, I might even be all right with that. But no, I mean, me personally, just based off of body type, I don't think Womack's an outside corner. Like, he could. I think they put him in there just based off a depth chart because he was number 3 on the depth chart. He was our slot, so it just made sense for them to move him over. But I'm sure during practice this week, Ambry Thomas or even Lamore are more those kind of guys that can play the outside receivers. They're quick, but they still have a big enough body to where they can play with the big guys. So I mean, I would keep Womack where he's at. I think Womack looks good at that slot corner. I think he's going to eventually be really good there. But to change him out to the outside corner, he's not really one of those interchangeable guys where like K1. We had times where we could have put him as an outside corner. We didn't. Like, we were like, no, we'll go Ambry. We'll go with, whoever, because he's not meant to be that outside corner. If anything, we go look at some guys that are out there. You threw out Fuller and, the few guys out there. But I mean, there's corners out there that could play that outside position, but I think we have some corners on the team, either between Thomas and Lamore that I think could be out in that point. And then even if you're cycling them out, like depending on the game.
The thought on Thomas was everybody who was at the training camp this year said that he had a terrible training camp. He was getting beat every play. But we do have the all-time 49er. Dante Johnson could come in and start,
That's true.
He played well last year.
He did, yeah.
He plays well every time he comes in. He's just not going to do anything spectacular.
No. Yeah. He's not going to be nothing crazy, but he just needs to be that.
Even if it's just enough time to get Brett healthy, or figure out a way to get somebody else in the building, I think Johnson could be a good feeling. I
think so. I watched Thomas kind of close because I did hear the same thing, like the whispers about how he had a bad camp, but I thought he looked good last year. I thought he was pretty decent. I always liked Lamore over. Yeah, I always liked Lamore over Thomas personally, like talent-wise, watching him come out of college. I thought Lamore was going to be that guy, and then Thomas ended up being him. I've seen Lamore get more playing time now over Thomas, so I don't know if that's eventually going to pull away now. But watching him at the end of the game, even though they were having to throw the ball and they weren't really successful anyways, but he didn't look bad. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes Ayuk had a bad training camp. He had a bad preseason, and then he came out during the season and, started to ball out. There was all that talks about Shanahan losing faith in him and blah, blah, blah. And he's been known to do that, where he puts guys at the bottom of the depth chart, stops giving them the ball and makes them like earn their way kind of back to that point. So I'm hoping that Thomas.
That is a Shanny thing.
Yeah, so I'm hoping Thomas can do that. I think he added like body types and everybody else who we have on our roster. Him or Johnson, I think, are probably I would say the go-to guys.
I think Thomas has the most upside.
Yeah,
sure. He's athletic. He's more athletic. He has
a lot more length. He looks similar to Ward in the way his body type is, and Mosley and those guys. So I mean, I feel like he's the best fill-in there if he could be, but it's going to be how they perform. So we have to keep an eye on the depth chart this week and see what happens coming into the game.
So there's no benefit to somebody getting injured, obviously. But that might mean Mosley's back next year. So
yeah, true.
It sucks to lose him this year because this team that defense.
It still is. It still is. This defense is still like, I think people are like, oh, the injuries, but what separates this defense from any of our defenses in the past is we have so much depth on this team. when there's those key guys were out half the game last week, and you didn't even notice. Like you didn't notice the drop off in the D line. You didn't notice the drop off in the corners. You don't notice a fallback when there's the backups in there. And even when before they were hurt, they were substituting guys out depending on yardage and stuff like that. And you didn't see the difference. You know what I mean? So I don't worry about this defense the way I did that year when we had all those big key injuries and everyone is gone, and all of a sudden we're like, shit, who do we have? We're scrambling and picking up free agents and doing that kind of stuff. Where like this year, I'm like, dude, we can roll with the number twos and be still the top defense in the league. Like I don't see us being any less than.
So that's what I was gonna say. Bosa's injured, and he can play the whole second half, I think, or most of the second half, and didn't notice anything. Like the defense was still all over Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I want Bosa on the field. Dude's DPOY. Yeah, you know what I mean? We're definitely not saying that, you guys. DPOY for sure, but yeah, without him on there, I'm not stressing like I was in the past when he got hurt, and I was like, shit, who do we got?
Rough.
Yeah.
And I think one, like we give, I don't, and you don't, but I hear a lot of the media people give John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan so much flack because they're not signing the big sexy names. They didn't sign. What's that Chargers quarterback that they were supposed to sign?
Jackson, JC.
They're supposed to get Jackson. He's the guy. We get Ward for less money, and he's better.
Yeah, he's playing better.
We get all these backups on the defensive line. Why are we signing defensive linemen still? That's what everybody's saying. We have 12 defensive linemen. You can't play 12 defensive linemen. The defensive line, Nick Bosa gets hurt, and it doesn't lose a beat.
Yeah, Bosa gets hurt. Bosa gets hurt. Armstead gets hurt. Kinlaw gets hurt. Basically, it's our whole number twos right now across the board on defensive line, and you still don't notice a drop off, which speaks to what we're doing on this team, and that's we don't like
Jimmy
like
Ward
you
has
said.
played one snap this season. Jimmy Ward has played one snap through 5 games, and the safeties are still the best safeties in the league.
Yeah, we have the 2 top out of the top 3 rated safeties in the league right now.
Say what you want about him, but they know how to build a team. So
yeah, I'm never going to question them. Like I said, you're always going to come back to that point where if you're not able to win a championship with this team, you have to start looking at Shanahan only because he's the head coach. They have to shoulder that, just like the quarterback has to shoulder a lot of the issues on offense. That's just how it is. But at the end of the day, like they've been successful. They haven't gotten the championship yet, but the Niners have been talked about and been included in the conversation every year that Shanahan's been there, minus the 2020 year where the whole team was on IR. But outside of that year,
we have to win a championship.
Yeah.
Howard was one of the greatest coaches ever, and he didn't win a championship until like his 15th year.
Yeah, look at Tomlin. Tomlin's been there for how long? Like Tomlin's been the fucking. Yeah, he has won.
Basically, Bill Cowher's championship because that was 2 years after he retired.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
why are we pushing so hard for a championship? Like, I want to win a championship. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But why are we going to fire this coach who took us from the laughing stock of the league to literally the pick every year to be in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Even when we have a bad year like in 2020, the next year, 49ers are going to be in the Super Bowl. They expect the 49ers to be in the Super Bowl. That's how good this coach has been. And he's doing a good job as a head coach because the defense is always great. Like, it's not like he's putting all his picks and his resources into the offense. He puts a lot of resources into the defense and then says, hey, I can make the offense work.
Yeah, he's confident in his coaching ability so much so that he's like, plug a running back in. Give me a Tevin Coleman who's been on 4 teams since he left our team, and I'm going to plug him in and he's going to score touchdowns. Like, right. That's the way he thinks, and that's that.
Fire this coach.
Yeah, you don't.
We did that once. We got rid of Harbaugh after 4 years, 3 of which we were in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's crazy. We got rid of him.
Yeah,
we had one bad season, and all of a sudden everyone's flipping out, and we got calling through his head.
We had Chip Kelly. Like, we're still paying those coaches probably. Like, why are we getting rid of this coach?
Yeah.
Like, let him be. Let this man do his job. Like, he's doing great. I don't care. Like, I don't see it. I don't see
Yeah.
why everybody hates him.
It's not like our window closes because like our whole fucking team is none of them old.
No.
All of them have multiple years left to play on their contracts. There's very few people on that team that I'm like, damn, if they retire, we're fucked. You don't got like the Whitworths where the Rams put all their money on these guys that have like 2 more seasons left, and then they're like, oh, they're gone. Now what the fuck do we do? That's what the Rams are running into now, and we're not that team, not by any means. Like every year, I'm excited. Even as a Niner fan, I'm a football fan. I understand football and I understand how things work in football. And if I knew the Niners were not going to be successful or not be at least competitive, I would say that probably at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? I would say I'm hopeful, but there's no way that I'm going to go into the season thinking that we're going to be bad ever with Shanahan there. There's so many professional analysts out there that say that like these guys are going to be in the conversation just because Shanahan is their coach. Doesn't matter what they have. It doesn't matter who they have at QB. It doesn't matter who they have at running back. It doesn't matter who they have at fucking anything. Like Shanahan is there. He can make it work. And they've done it. Lynch has done a great job personnel wise, bringing in the right defensive players on that team to give Shanahan the ability to have his way with his offense. So,
agreed. I agree with that 1,000%, man. I remember what I wanted to talk about now. There was something I couldn't remember, and I remember what it was. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. They were talking about who the starting quarterback is going to be the 49ers next year. Who do you think the starting quarterback is going to be next year?
we circled back to, even though it's not, shouldn't be based off of that like we just said for the coach, but it's going to be based off of that again for the QBs. If we can pull out a championship this year, there's no reason why they should move away from Jimmy. Me personally, I was all ready to move away from Jimmy, and I'm not trying to go back on that. Like, I still think Trey Lance has a higher ceiling, but that dude is, 20, 21 years old? Like, yeah. He has so many years. Like, you had guys that didn't start as a QB until they were 26, 27. So, like, you got a young kid who still clearly needs a little bit of development. He's a talented kid. He got the arm. He has the tools necessary to be better than Jimmy. But you win a championship, it kind of goes to show you can win with that type of QB. You know what I mean? Like, there's no need to go away from it if you can be successful and get to that point. Now, they don't win a championship.
Let me give you a little premise. There's a player out there who is going through a divorce now and may want to play football. And I think I told you, he might play for the next 10 years, sign up to a contract. So that was mentioned. Now that he's going through a divorce, he has no reason to quit football, and he wants to play at home. Who says no?
Nobody. I think
there's another player that is also from the Bay Area who has an opt-out clause at the end of the season. He wears number 12 as well.
Yeah.
Who says no?
Nobody. so I think. So I'm gonna go back to this. I trust Shanahan, right? Trust him in his play, what he makes the calls, what he does. But I can guarantee you, him and Lynch right now they were sitting at home after last season, and they were saying, "Why the fuck didn't we get Tom Brady?" There's no way there's no way that they can back up. They might back it up in the media. They might say like, "No, we went with our guy. This is who we wanted." And at the time, I think they believed that Jimmy was a younger version of who everyone thought would be Tom. You know, he was successful, he was winning. You know, they had all those positives already in front of his name. So there was no reason for them to go and say like, "Yeah, Tom Brady is all-time winning quarterback, but he's also aging. He's also, you know what I mean? We don't know what he has still left in the tank, where we know what Jimmy has." So I think at the time they definitely believed in their decision, and I honestly believed in it a little bit at the time too. I was kind of like, why do that? Why would we go there? Now that we're past that, and we see them now on paper, Tom Brady's still Tom Brady. So there's no way in hell we pass up going after Tom, going after Aaron, in likes of Jimmy or Trey, for that matter.
That's
if
what
they're
it is.
available and they're willing and we have the means to do it, I don't think anybody on that Niner facility is going to say, no, stay with Jimmy. No, let's roll with Trey. Like, no.
I think
They'll
even
say
the
that.
players get behind those. I think
No,
even the
yeah,
players
yeah.
who love Jimmy get behind Brady because
Oh,
they're like,
100%.
it's Tom Brady, dog.
Yeah, it's just Tom Brady, exactly. Like you don't even question it. Rogers too, same shit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we've beaten Rogers up every year, and we all know who he is, but we also know who fucking Aaron Rodgers is. Like, we're not dumb. Like, we're not
Yeah.
ignorant. Those team players are not ignorant. You know what I mean?
Aaron Rodgers with this defense is
Oh
not Aaron
man,
Rodgers in Green Bay.
Aaron Rodgers has never had a defense like we have right now, and he's never had weapons either. Like, you really think about it, you got okay. You
When
can
he
go
won the
back
Super Bowl,
to
he had 4 good receivers.
yeah. You can go back to that time, and they were good receivers. But I still don't put any one of those wide receivers in the Debo category and the Kittle category. You know what I mean? Like, you don't put them
They
in.
had so the receivers when
He,
they won the Super
he
Bowl
had
was
he had Adams.
Jennings,
Yeah, Jennings is good. He was good.
uh,
They had Randall Cobb, who's
Randall Cobb, Nelson. Was it Nelson?
JJ. Yeah,
And then Donald Driver.
yeah. Well, again, all good wide receivers. But if you put them in the conversation with the Debo's and the AJ Browns and the Devontae Adams and those kind of guys, like they're not going to get thrown in that same group. You know what I mean? You got the tiers of wide receivers and like what they've done throughout the years, and like they'll be in like they'll be in the all time, like probably all time greats. But then you got like a tier above that that's like the ceiling of those greats are a lot higher than the all time greats that are right there. So
That's true. And
you
the
put
running
them in
game will be
there.
a lot different.
Yeah, you put him in there with a similar
The only
minded
thing
coach.
I can see that could be an issue is Shanahan is very, very headstrong. And
True.
Aaron is very headstrong. So that I can see it being an issue. Same with
I
Tom
feel
Brady,
like
actually. I can see the same
I
thing with
feel
Tom
like
Brady in it.
yeah, I feel like LaFleur though, like they all come from that same tree. I feel like he's a similar thought process coach. Like, he doesn't come out as strong as Shanahan does sometimes, and like those other coaches. But I think Belichick was that type of coach too, and he did just fine. You know what I mean? I think once you have a guy like Tom Brady who's already shown he can do these things, you start to feel a little bit more comfortable giving up those reins a little bit. You know, not enough to be like, hey, this is your team, not my team anymore. He won't do that. Shanahan won't do that, but he'll definitely like, you know what, you want to call some play, you want to make some changes at that line of scrimmage, you want to do some things, like I have no reason to
That's
question
what
you right now. Like, you're fucking
I was
Tom
going to say
Brady.
that. I think having those quarterbacks can help Shanahan elevate to the next tier of being a coach. Because this year we see Jimmy's fucking him. Like, hey, your plays fucking suck.
Yeah.
He's
And
fine now, and Shanahan's kind of elevating now. He's kind of changing a little bit. Like, oh shit, let's call these plays we haven't seen since 2019. Roll out boots. Jimmy's throwing deep. We haven't seen this stuff 2-3 years.
I noticed he's loosening those chains a little bit. That's what I'm saying. So when you got the QB that can do that, especially like a Rodgers, who in my opinion, arm wise is better than Tom. I mean, we can't argue that. You got a guy like that at QB that understands defenses, that understands how to like take those types of plays and do stuff with them. Like, you start to think, I don't have to shoulder everything. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy's not. And even then, he's loosening it on Jimmy a little bit, but you got, he's not that type of QB that can take over a game. So you start to like feel like you have to tighten those restraints, and I got to be the guy that puts him in a position to be successful. Where Tom Brady is going to always put himself in a position to be successful because he doesn't want to be unsuccessful. Same as Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't want to be unsuccessful. So you got these guys that are always going to put themselves in a position to win and be good. Where Jimmy, you kind of have to help push him along a little bit, So
you have to put him in the positions. You don't have to put those two in the positions. Garoppolo, you have to put in those positions.
Yeah.
I feel that.
So
I don't know. It's just something that intrigued me too. I was like, man, I didn't realize that Aaron Rodgers could be a free agent at the end of the year. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and if he doesn't win another championship, if he doesn't make a push again
He's
this year,
frustrated
and
right now.
he's getting irritated. He's been irritated for a long time, right? And they keep he keeps like, all right, whatever. And I think it's more just I think the teams that he really wants aren't available, which is most of the Niners. I think going back to home and being able to do that at his home team. I know a lot of people assume he has that grudge, and even he mentioned it at times, but I don't think it's to the point where he's going to turn down going to league leading defense, weapons that you got, Shanahan as a coach. There'd be no reason for him to be like, nah, they passed on me. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like he's
And
not that.
none of those people who passed on him or even work for the 49ers anymore.
No, exactly. So
Hold that grudge if you want, but it's only gonna hurt you.
those guys are
Uh,
available. I'm gonna say let Trey sit for another 2 years. When we have the opportunity to go get one of those guys, like let's give them a 2 year contract, even a 3 year contract that they have an option to opt out their third year, and let's bring those guys in and let's extend that Super Bowl window for a good 2-3 seasons. Like you put
yeah,
those guys were automatic contenders again the following year. So
every year they're on the team. That's true. Um, so trade deadline is getting ready to come up. We have a couple positions in need. Who are you thinking? Do you have anybody in mind?
I liked your thing. I'm gonna let you go with the names that you threw out there. I wasn't necessarily thinking it because I didn't think it was like a drastic need. Again, I'm not
Yeah,
panicking right now. There's no guys out there that I'm like no position on our team that I'm like shit. We need to fill this ASAP. Maybe a tackle if we can get a right tackle out there that teams that are ready to move on and try to rebuild and they have a tackle out there that's more serviceable than McGlinchey. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now, but I'm
I think
okay
our
with
interior is good, so it's just our right
yeah.
side
Our
position.
interior line's good. Like I said, I
And
think if we have a right tackle,
he's been he's been playing pretty well the last few weeks. Granted, Lindsey's
I
been
think they've
out, so
schemed.
they're
I think
picky on
they've
the left
schemed
side right
it.
now.
I think they've schemed it really well, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't be mad at that position. But other than that, I don't think it's really in tackle. I shouldn't say right tackle. I think depending on how they move the players around the line, we have a lot of guys on there that are kind of interchangeable between guard and tackle and that kind of stuff. So
Brunskill does
just
it all anyways.
adding an extra lineman wouldn't hurt. So there's a guy out there that's good on a team that doesn't plan on doing anything this year. Like send him our way, and I'm all for it. But I
Yeah,
like the corner position you threw out there, and
yeah. So I'm saying everybody's been saying we need to go get Christian McCaffrey. That's a lot of money at that position that we're already pretty solid at. He does do a few different things. He can catch the ball out of the backfield really well, as we saw last week. But if they want a 6 round pick and they're willing to take out 90% of his contract, that's a great trade. I don't see that happening. So my position of need is cornerback. So the three guys that I had, Fuller plays for the Commanders. They're terrible. So if they want to trade him, I'd go get him. The other guy I thought was J.C. Horn. He's young though. I don't
that's
think they're gonna trade him.
yeah,
If they
that's
want to
that's
trade
one
him,
that
that
if we
guy's a beast.
yeah that's one that if we can go all in on. As soon as you said his name, I'm like, oh, I didn't even think that. Like, yeah, he's young, but he's a cornerback. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
when you're rebuilding a team, you don't typically want to rebuild around a
exactly.
corner. So him being young, like if we're going to send them picks, even some depth somewhere along the line, some young guys. But I think if we can send them some picks and future pretty high picks, I mean I'm good with that because I'm like
That guy's
we need
he's good.
to have another young corner out there. Like it would not hurt at all.
That guy's good. The most realistic option though that I think we could actually make happen because they're actually not that good this year. Their defense is solid, but their team's not really good. Is Stephon Gilmore? He's older, kind of hefty contract.
Yeah, man.
That's the one guy I think is the most realistic option for us to go get.
Yeah, sure.
Um, even if we get him though, that would be perfect because you don't have to worry about him. He's a vet.
No.
He's
Yeah,
gonna fit
he's
right
able
in.
to.
He's physical. He's got all the little tricks that a quarterback needs to have. Um, I think with him, probably be just as well as having E-Man back. So that's the one guy I think is the most realistic option
Yeah,
and
yeah.
probably the best fit. Because if we
Sexiest
do get
option is
Horn,
Horn.
yeah, if we do get Horn, we have to resign him like right now, like because he's only going
Yeah,
to get more expensive.
yeah,
And then if we get Fuller, I feel like the Commanders still feel like they're kind of in it, even though that division is way out of their league right now.
yeah.
I don't think they're going to trade him, and if they do trade him, they might want something astronomical. So I just think Gilmore's probably the most realistic option, but if we can get any of three of those people, I think
Yeah.
That helps our defense, helps our team. I don't feel like we need a running back. We do need a tackle. I don't feel like we need interior play. Our interior guard center, we got three young guys, but we also got run skill. So I think we're good there. Defensive line, I think we're great. Linebacker, we're good. Safeties, we're good. So I literally just think, we get a quarterback. If we can find a quarterback,
I threw out Mason Rudolph wouldn't be a horrible. I personally wouldn't. That wouldn't be a horrible backup for Jimmy. I think I'm not opposed to having the rookie, back there backing him up, but you just got Mason Rudolph who has experience. He has he's been in the whole playoff environment and that type of thing. So, I mean, I don't think he'd be bad. Skill set, it favors more Trey than he does Jimmy, but that's what we want anyway. So we want to be able to open up those plays a little bit and do that kind of stuff. Or let's go get Taysom.
Yeah, or Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't be horrible either.
Yeah, have him on the backup. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. I don't think they're gonna trade him though because Jameis is not playing that great. Can't stay healthy. Taysom's a gadget player. I don't think they're gonna start him. So
yeah, he's.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about it again next week. See what changes.
Yeah, see what pops up.
Your guy though, you want to talk about T.Y. Miguel killed us in the preseason.
Yeah, dude.
Somehow we got this guy for free.
Yeah, well, so what happened? I think he had an injury coming off of our game, and then just hasn't been able to get back out there and do that kind of thing. But dude, I watched him on tape. He's young, and that dude is so good in the run game, and him being a big dude, he can get after the QB. Like he's not unathletic by any means. So I kind of like that pick. With the way Kinlaw's going, I don't see him reaching the potential that we all expected him to do. And at this point, like if we're gonna walk away from him, McGill plugs in right there, and he's easily a better fit for that defense. He can play that 3 technique. He can play that 2-eye technique. He can kind of play across the interior of the line and be good. And with Buckner, or not Buckner, I wish it was Buckner. Armstead dealing with his injury, it seems like it keeps popping up. It's not really letting him move past it. So I think you need to have those solid guys. That's another guy. I mean, Buck, depending on how the Colts go, I mean, shit, we might.
I love it.
Maybe might make that call, get him back home.
I watched the Colts game. The Colts Chiefs, I think it was, and I only watched it for a short time because I was watching all the games that were on. But I turned it, and the Chiefs were driving inside the 10. And you just see Buckner got into his stance, and I was like, I remember that stance. He lost to get a sack. He got sacked. I miss him. He's so good. I don't think we made a mistake trading him. I think we made a mistake drafting that position first round again.
Yeah.
I think that was the mistake. Trading him, I said a mistake. Those things are going to happen in business. We got value out of it.
Yeah.
Armstead's still a good player. Didn't make a mistake there, but I think the mistake was trying to replace him. And that's what they're trying to replace him. And you can't replace him. He's a one-of-a-kind player.
You can't. And I think, I don't know if that was just like a panic moment for them or something, but I feel like they've done so well with taking, guys that were second, third stringers on other teams and making them become into, step into those positions and do well. They've been successful on doing that with D linemen. That D line coach, at some point, he got to get a DC position or something, because that dude has
You
developed.
don't want one.
I know he wants to stick with D lineman, but I'm like, dude, you done some crazy stuff with some guys that you wouldn't have expected. Ebicom, all these guys that came over to our team are all wanting to stay on the Niners. They're like, no, we'll take the 1 year minimum pay contract. Like, you guys are better for my career because of what you guys do and how he does it, how he runs his defensive line. So you have all of that in place. Why jump to go and D tackle when there was other guys on the board that turned out to be studs? So but again, like, I know they were focused so much on building this type of defense that they have right now. You don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think now if we could go back, they know, like, oh, we're good. So let's just draft the best position in need or the best player available, and let's go. But that year, getting rid of Buckner, I think the fans too. The fans were just, whoa, what happened? I was like, didn't see that coming.
I didn't either, but we can only pay.
Armstead walk.
Yeah, I thought that too. He was a cheaper version, I think, of the two, and that's why they went that route. But
probably no trade value for Armstead either, though.
Yeah, true. I don't think people looked at him like they did Buck. I think Buck was that big guy. So.
And Armstead had the better year, which was crazy. I think Armstead had 10 or 11 sacks that year, and Buckner only had like 5 or 6. But we're here.
Those numbers are sometimes deceiving though, because you got guys like Buck who are taking on 2 or 3 blockers, and you got Armstead able to do 1. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen a lot of his picks, a lot of his sacks and stuff he had last season and this year, even starting in the beginning when he was getting pressure, it was because guards were completely just disregarding him and going to Bosa. So you got that. You kind of.
Bosa's still leading the league in sacks. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was Jeff Wilson, man. He's back. He looks explosive. He looks pre-injury, like 2020. I think it's 2020 was when he started. He looked good that year. He looked like he was going to be our starter last year. Mm-hmm. And then tore his meniscus sitting down or something like that.
Yeah.
He looks like he's all the way back. He looks healthy. He looks explosive. I always thought he read the blocks better than Elijah Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Mitchell's faster, but he doesn't read the cuts the way that Wilson does, in my opinion. When Elijah Mitchell comes back, is Jeff Wilson stay the starter, or do we go back to Elijah Mitchell? Do we go back to a platoon? How do we do this? I'm thinking I think we should start Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson should be our main running back, and he should get 10 to 12 carries a game, guaranteed.
Guaranteed, yeah.
He should get between 5 and 10, whatever the flow of the game gives him.
Yeah, whatever the play.
Perspective. And Tevin Cole's on the team now, so he's going to get some touches. What do you think? How do you see this working out?
I agree, man. I think Jeff Wilson, how he's playing now, he's that we found our bow cow. You talk about those types of running back. We found that guy. Like he can definitely shoulder that. Where if Mitchell doesn't get any carries and he gets 20, 25 carries, it still looked the same as far as our rushing yards and like what we do with Mitchell getting those carries. I think you run the Mitchell and those types of like. He almost becomes the Ray and the Danny Gray, like the explosive, like depending on the play, depending on the situation, like you put him out there. He kind of loses the receiving things from Coleman. After that catch Coleman had last week, I'm like, dude, that dude's our best receiving running back. That was insane. So you kind of Mitchell in a way, Mitchell with his injury almost lost a lot. I mean, and you can't go away from it. Mitchell played well last year, but he still didn't run the ball like Wilson has been running the ball. There's a difference between being a running back and being just an athlete. And I think because Wilson wasn't healthy is what led Mitchell to earning that spot and winning that spot and staying there. But with the way Wilson's playing, you can't justify it. There's no way you can justify sitting him and putting in Mitchell, who not only is hasn't been there, hasn't been out there for a while, but he's still recovering. So let him keep recovering. Give him a few plays, see how he does, test the waters a little bit, but there's no need for that. Maybe come playoffs, depending on the game plan, we have some setup plays that we have Mitchell in there and stuff. But
how at the end of the season, the 49ers like to run the ball, get to like 40 carries a game.
Yeah.
And at that point, I can see Elijah Mitchell having a big impact, but not currently. I think he's going to be out 8 weeks. That's 2 months of no football. When he finally does come back, he's not going to be ready. Not to the effect that Jeff Wilson already is. So barring an injury to Jeff Wilson, I think this is Jeff Wilson's team.
Yep.
He should be the starter the rest of the season. Even he said like today, he was like, last year I had no explosion. I couldn't get to the speed I wanted to. I wasn't hitting the holes correctly. Even when I looked at the tape, I was just like, who is that guy? So he looks a lot different this year. And even when he played in 2019, he just looked explosive. He looked a lot different than everybody else on the team.
Yep. So what I like about Wilson, and you said it, and I've said that over Mostert, over everyone. He is so much more patient with the ball, similar to how like the Le'Veon Bells and those kind of guys that were good. Do you watch them and they kind of wait and they watch the blocks unfold and then they hit that hole, and he was able to do that his whole career, but he didn't have that explosion once he hit that hole to accelerate and get that extra 8-9 yards that now he's getting. You know what I mean? So your observations are right. He's able to read the holes better. He's able to take his time and be patient, and then when he finally sees that hole, he's able to hit it and go and get the yards that we expect those plays to get. So I think he's a running back. Yeah, he's a running back.
Explosive plays every week so far, I think.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's ride.
Oh no! Let's not put that juju on this team.
That's a terrible thing to say. Let's ride.
Oh man, I've seen something about they're saying he's like a method actor playing quarterback or some shit like that. Like, no. I could definitely see it. He does some weird stuff, like coming out at practice, like he's clapping hands with players, and I'm like, there's nobody there. Like, you're just going through them. Well, what are you doing right now? Like
he's corny.
He's corny as shit.
Super corny.
Super corny.
Like, he's always frustrated because it's like, bro, you're so corny. I just like want to beat the shit out of you. But you're so smart that you keep the team in the game.
Just off of talent. I feel like he for me, I've never seen anything of him that I was like, this dude is the best at reading defenses. This guy's the best at making plays. Like, this dude just is so shifty and so talented athletically. Like, he's able to move around, and he has that arm where he's like, I ran around for 20 seconds. Somebody's open now, and then he fucking slings it straight to him. It's like, you can't, like Kyler, same thing. I'm not impressed by Kyler from anything else other than that. Like, they're able to do those things. Justin Fields is able to do those things. He just doesn't try to find the wide receiver. After that, it's like, I'm going to run around, and then I'm just going to run. Like, he's more of a Mar.
He's a little older.
Maybe. I don't know. That Bears team is pretty.
I also think it's an instinct thing too.
Yeah. I think he favors his legs though, because he's been let down by those wide receivers so many times. I mean, you look at his face, his reactions when he throws those balls and they drop. It's similar to what Russ is dealing with now. Like, he does his thing and he finds a guy, and then they drop it. So then he's like, "Fuck that guy! I'm not throwing it to him again." And then he throws it to someone else and gets picked. So
I wonder if he feels like, "Oh man, I should have stayed in Seattle." I wonder if he had the choice to stay in Seattle.
I think he seen. I mean, on paper though, everyone's seen the Broncos and thought that team was going to be good. So I don't blame him for saying, "Let me go over there and let me go join this team." But it just isn't translating. So I don't know.
What do you think about Javonte Adams?
I think he's an asshole. I think anybody who joins the Raiders becomes an asshole. So I think it's just they put on that silver and black, and all of a sudden they're convicts. So
I think he regrets his decision for sure. Like, I love Green Bay.
It's
It's not
definitely
as
that meme.
cold. It's not as
It's
cold.
definitely that meme of like holding the picture of Wolverine, you know, and
Yeah. I
it's
saw there was one.
Aaron Rodgers on the picture, like,
There was
oh,
one that came out this week, and that sucks. He's playing good too. He's playing Devontae Adams football. He's doing exactly what he did last
yeah,
year.
he's
It's
doing
not like his stats drop.
yeah,
It's just that
he's
the
doing what
team
he's
isn't as
supposed to do.
good.
Yeah, the team's just not
You know, I
the
don't. I blame the only person that's not showing up the way you expect him to is Chandler Jones. I don't know
yeah.
if he has a sack this year.
The defense, I thought on paper was looking better, and they're still trash. So I don't know.
Yeah.
They need to get in maybe D'Amico if he doesn't get a head coaching job, or bring him over as a head coach, and then let
Yeah,
him
they get
do
him
his
as a
thing with that
GC, that's
defense.
for sure.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Vic Fangio is waiting to be the next defensive coordinator for us? He's coming back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at that, dude. We have the personnel.
He's a blitzer though.
I thought we looked good when we were blitzing the ball, though.
They did this year.
I,
It looked good.
it looked intimidating. Like, you got Fred Warner flying over the field, you got Greenlaw, you got Hufunga, you got guy. They had Lamore coming off the edge. Like, dude, it was fun to watch that game. I liked watching that, and I thought because our corners are as good as they are now, we're able to do that and count that our corners are going to be able to maintain that coverage in that time that it takes for them to get there. So that could be fun.
I was just thinking like, oh, Salah will get fired. He'll come back to the 49ers.
That's a possibility too, but I don't think they're going to fire Salah yet. I think the Jets are going to do good enough that they might be like, okay, maybe he knows what he's doing. Yeah. They might give him another year, and by then D'Amico will be hired. He'll be hired this offseason. So
yeah, D'Amico's leaving for sure. Like,
probably to Carolina.
That could be a good spot for him. Actually, a good spot for him would be either Carolina or Washington.
I wouldn't mind seeing his swagger over in Oakland, to be honest. But
they're not gonna get rid of McDaniel yet, though.
I know, because of McDaniel is who he is, but
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, they're not looking good. And I think D'Amico could help as an offensive, as a defensive mind, fix the defense like Salah's doing with New York, and then let the OC, maybe McDaniel steps down to OC or something.
The other guy who could get fired too, which would be a surprise because it's his first year, is the Denver coach.
Yeah.
They look god awful.
Uh-huh. With the players that they have, yeah,
that team would be scary with D'Amico.
True. That defense would be scary. Shit, I don't know. We'll see. As long as he's on our team for this year, so we can get this Super Bowl run. We need him now.
We need a ring.
Yeah. Give us that ring and then go get your bank. But all right.
All right, that's week 6. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, share.
Share. Tell your friends. Tell people. Let's get some people over here.
All right, we're out.
All right,
boys.
Let's go.